The following podcast contains explicit language.
We have to start by building a wall.
I'm not going to pay for that wall.
And the wall just got 10 feet taller.
I mean, everything's negotiable.
It's not negotiable about building it.
No, building it, not negotiable.
It's not negotiable.
If they ever get up there, they're in trouble. Because there's no way to get down. Maybe a rope.
Hello and welcome to Trumpcast, the show about the man who may support amnesty for some illegal immigrants, Donald Trump. I'm Jacob Weisberg. That's right, Trump said on Monday that his policy on illegal immigrants would be humane and fair. CNN asked his new campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, if that meant that he no longer favored his old policy of deporting 11 million illegals. To be determined, she said. The weird trend here isn't Trump contradicting himself, which happens every 17 seconds or so. It's his nearly week-long stretch of relative moderation and self-restraint. He's been on his best behavior for 6 days running. What's causing this curious decline in crazy outbursts? And can it last until the weekend? I'll be back to discuss that with Anna Marie Cox right after we do the tweets.
I heard that at Morning Joe was very nice on Friday, but that little Donnie D, a big failure in TV, and someone I helped was nasty, irrelevant. Tried watching low-rated at Morning Joe this morning. Unwatchable. At Morning Micah is off the wall, a neurotic and not very bright mess. Someday, when things calm down, I'll tell the real story of at Joe NBC and his very insecure longtime girlfriend at Morning Micah. Two clowns. President Obama should have gone to Louisiana days ago instead of golfing. Too little, too late. Ann Coulter's new book, In Trump We Trust, comes out tomorrow. People are saying it's terrific. Knowing Ann, I'm sure it is. The Washington Post quickly put together a hit job book on me, comprised of copies of some of their inaccurate stories. Don't buy. Boring.
My guest today is Anna Marie Cox. She's a senior political correspondent for MTV News. She also writes that great talk interview column for the New York Times Magazine, where she is a contributing editor. Anna, welcome to the show.
Hello, it is good to be here.
So we have lots of things to talk about in Trump world. The first is Trump's slight adjustment, shall we say, on his stand on immigration. He's for an amnesty now. He wants to let illegal immigrants stay here.
But he still wants the wall, which is actually impossible to build. So he's for the symbolic thing still. I actually am of the mind that in some ways this is actually a scary turn of events, that it's not a sign of any kind of move to the middle, but rather it's not his move that worries me. It's the fact that his supporters seem to just be accepting it in stride, which says to me this was never about a specific policy. It's a cult of personality, and it's about emotion and not about policy at all. It's actually, I mean, I presume you have also spoken to, Trump supporters. And one of the things that stands out to me in talking to them is that they're kind of policy nihilists. They don't really believe anything anybody says anyway. They just like to have Trump say what he says.
Right. It's like, okay, the earth is round, and I know we said it was flat, but that was never the point.
Exactly. What the point is that this man feels my anger and articulates the things that I feel need to be articulated.
I mean, there are two ways to look at Trump, right? I mean, you can say he's an extremist with extreme views on race and immigration and a whole set of issues. Or you can say the guy is just an opportunistic demagogue and doesn't believe anything at all except what a crowd responds to. This is actually a little hard to interpret in either light, because why did suddenly this kind of favorite red meat position of his need modification if he's just a demagogue.
Well, I do think I do lean towards the demagogue with no real set beliefs theory of Trump.
I do too, by the way.
And I guess I see in this some sort of acknowledgement that he needs to change his sales pitch. I think that he was probably that whoever appealed to him, I'm guessing, everyone sort of supposes that these tacks are, Kellyanne Conway's doing, since she's the actual experienced political consultant here. And also she's worked on amnesty before. She worked, she's been a consultant for Mark Zuckerberg's pro-immigration.
So with her position, it was his
right.
Advisor's position. It might as well be his position.
Right, exactly. And I think that he probably has never listened to anyone who says you need to change who you are, but you need to change what you say so you can sell to more people is probably what he understands as a pitchman. And I think that might be what is happening here, because he is probably going to insist that there's no real change in policy.
Yeah.
Right. And I think some people are going to be like, yeah, there is no real change in policy. Yes, there's going to be path to citizenship, but we're still going to have a wall and we're still going to not allow illegals, whatever that means.
Do you also see the hand of Conway in his so-called reaching out to black voters, which is a funny reach out? He's been doing it in like white neighborhoods. He won't actually speak to any black audiences. He's turned down all those invitations. And what he says in reaching out to black voters is, your lives are horrible.
Yeah.
We're going to make them better. But I mean, he has his perception of the reality of black America is like the really racist scenes from Live and Let Die from the 70s. It's like, people getting shanghaied in Harlem, like, race riots,
right.
Neighborhoods burning, he does. But yeah.
I was thinking Escape from New York, except with black people. I do see the hand of his consultants in this so-called outreach, because I'm not the first person to make this observation. This is outreach not at black people, but at white people who don't want to be considered racist.
Right. Although that's nothing new. I mean, that's a well-trod part of the Republican playbook. They don't have much hope of getting black votes, but they can win or lose suburban white votes depending on whether people think they are racially hostile.
Right. And what's really ironic here is, of course, it's still racially hostile messaging. I keep on expecting him to say something about people needing, young men needing to pull their pants up. I mean, it's that level of stereotypes and respectability politics. And it's the kind of thing that white people in the suburbs think that black people need to hear, as though they haven't heard it before. What's really striking to me about this so-called black outreach is how just dumb it is. It doesn't pass even if someone had the most mild curiosity about the African American experience in America, you would not say these things, right?
Yeah.
If you had any thought in your head about it, or cared to ask a black person, you probably more than someone besides Ben Carson.
Yeah, or one who didn't work for you.
Yeah, one who didn't work for you. You would get some feedback that would lead you to a different direction in saying this. I mean, it's this idea that all I have to do is point out that they've been electing Democrats and they're still poor. That's all. That's it. Hey, guys.
And crime.
Yeah.
But there is some kind of, however, insanely delivered, there is some effort to moderate and move to the center. You saw it starting, I think, with when his vague apology where he said, regrets, I've had a few, can't tell you what they're about, but, if anybody's feelings were hurt by anything, I'm sorry.
Except I only hurt your feelings because I was telling the truth.
Right.
Which is it is the worst. If a husband made that apology, he would be sleeping on the couch, right? It is the worst. I'm sorry if your feelings were hurt, but I'm still right kind of apology. And he didn't say what he was talking about, at all, which makes it kind of a non-apology. A non-apology needs to specify what you're apologizing for. I am interested to see how long this lasts. I mean, obviously, you're an astute Trump observer. And in the past, these tacks of less abusive language, less colorful language, sticking to script have always been followed by the pendulum swinging the other way. and him saying something just kind of insane.
That's our assumption. But this has lasted maybe 5 days. It was kind of a quiet, long weekend for Trump world. And the only actively insane thing he seems to be doing is this sort of attacks on Hillary's health, which he's mainly not doing himself. I mean, he's doing it through his Charlie McCarthy puppet, Sean Hannity. And, he's saying, oh, she doesn't have the physical stamina, but he's being very coded about it. But he's sort of putting that out there, but not in the usual way Trump would do, where he would give you a list of the ailments he thinks she's suffering from.
Right. I always feel like when he says she doesn't have the strength and stamina, that's a really long version. Why doesn't he just say penis? I don't know why he's going through all this, rigmarole about stamina. But Sean Hannity, I think, does think he's a doctor. But you're right. I do think that's a really despicable tack, I have to say. I was watching, I think, CNN last night, and someone pointed out that when Bill Clinton campaigned against HW, he was doing his 1,000 points of light shtick at the time, and the Clintons never said anything about it. You could have mocked it. We might mock it. I think I personally mocked it.
I know, right? I did.
But that was not something the campaign decided, what, that's, whatever. He means well. We won't go after that. Can you imagine? I mean, that was a decision that was made. And today, with the way that Trump is campaigning, and that Hillary is also kind of, it's true she's made a choice to do a sort of similar thing. I don't think she's playing quite as dirty, but it's the way that this whole race has gone.
Talk about your penis point a little more. Because I actually think you're on to something there. I mean, I had Masha Gessen on to talk about Putin, and she said, I thought it was a very astute observation, that part of Putin's sympathy for Trump is just about how insulted he is by the idea that his counterpart would be a woman. Mm-hmm. Right. And I detect a little bit of that in Trump, too, as sort of the point you were getting at, that it's Hillary, but it's also that Hillary's female, and he still has the instinct that this is a business for men.
Right. And I think that's actually, I wrote a piece about this last week, which is that it's when his accusation of crooked Hillary, yes, there is some there about her practices, although what's interesting to me about it is that everything he accuses her of is something that he himself has done. Exactly same thing, this kind of favor trading, sort of self-dealing, the friends and family sort of keeping, playing a very inside game is something that he's bragged about.
Contributing to the Clinton Foundation?
Contributing to the Clinton Foundation, exactly. I think that when he's talking about crooked Hillary, what he's doing is playing on an idea that she has to be crooked. She's a woman and she's successful. There is no way that she could be where she is without having cheated. That is the only explanation for a woman winning. That's if Katie Ledecky beat him in the swimming pool, he would say she was on steroids.
Or even that it's cheating in a way for women to do the same things that he's obviously done. If a man does it, it's not cheating, it's just business.
Right, exactly. No, that's exactly right. And I think that it's I called it kind of a form of birtherism, in that it's a circumstance of Hillary's birth that disqualifies her from president as well, which is that she was born a woman. In her case, her birth certificate is not the problem, it's her gender. And I think that it's the same, this stamina code is pretty much the same thing. It is a not very veiled, I feel like, indication that, she's weak, and she's weak because she's a woman, and she's an old, frail woman. And I am strong. I am a man. I am, of course, as his supposed doctor said, the healthiest man to ever be president. I am really looking forward to that coming up in debates. I hope it comes up in the debate.
So how long do you give the spell of Conway? When will we have the old Donald Trump back?
I don't know. This reminds me a little bit of the last days this is really last days of the McCain campaign, when McCain was convinced by his aides that for the good of the country, he needed to play a little dirtier.
Right.
McCain being McCain, he couldn't quite play dirty just to win, but for the good of the country, he could do it. I think with Trump, it's almost the opposite. He has been forced into a more dignified kind of behavior in order to win.
Yeah.
I think the damage has been pretty much done. And I wonder if Like, I think that where we might see the old Trump is on the debate stage, when he can't have someone whispering his ear, when he can't be on a teleprompter or a transcript or a script, when he is going to be faced with this woman who he clearly has no respect for. And she might make him, I think that her demeanor that she always gets criticized for being too not very charismatic. She's not very funny. She's not very, her style is such that I almost think that's the exact style that could get under his skin.
Yeah.
That she just knows what she's talking about. I think competence is his kryptonite.
Well said. All right, Anna, it's great talking to you. Thanks for joining me on the show today.
No problem. Anytime.
That's it for today's show. Trumpcast was produced by Jason DeLeon. Steve Lichtai is the executive producer of Slate Podcasts. Andy Bowers is our chief content officer. John DiDomenico is our voice of Donald Trump. I'm Jacob Weisberg. Thanks for listening to Trumpcast.
Wow, this is absolutely incredible. Ann Coulter's new book, In Trump We Trust, came out today, and it's already the biggest selling book in history behind Art of the Deal and the Bible.
In every city,
she encouraged them to enjoy what she called the cheerful hurly-burly of city life.
In every town.
And now we've just been around long enough, and the town looks so much better.
There are people who want to change things.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that is so cool. Why can't we do that in my community and other communities everywhere?
To make them better.
My point to them is it can be better. It can be better than that. It'll be different.
Or to protect things from getting worse.
If you're a responsible person, you have to oppose things that are dumped right on your neighborhood, right in an area that you know about.
I'm Rebecca Shear, inviting you to check out Placemakers, the podcast from Slate Magazine about the spaces we inhabit and the people who shape them. Subscribe now to Placemakers. You'll never look at your community the same way again.